Yo, what is up guys? Del Boy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hope you guys are doing well. First and foremost, if you could smash the like button, it really does help the channel out. And also, if you are new, hit the subscribe button. Again, really helps me out. But in this video, I will be doing a Keys to Victory video for Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz Jr. In this video, we will be looking at Keys to Victory from Anthony Joshua's perspective. Now, I don't usually do Keys to Victory videos. In fact, I don't think I've ever done one, believe it or not. Usually, I will just make a prediction, but I think going forwards, for these really big fights, I think we will do a Keys to Victory segment for both fighters involved in these massive fights, starting with Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz Jr. And like I said, this video will be from Anthony Joshua's perspective. So let's get into it. What is the first thing that I believe Joshua needs to improve on going into this second fight? Well, the first one isn't really a technical improvement that he needs to make, more of a mental adjustment, and that is to lose the ego. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Anthony Joshua has always been a guy who, if he connects with a good punch, he will always try to follow up and knock you out. He smells blood and he goes for it. If you hit him and have success, he will also try and get you back. He's got what I call a fighter's ego. You know, if you land one, he'll want to get you back, and if he lands a good shot, he will try to jump on you and finish you. You know, Joshua has displayed that in several fights, and in fact, it's actually been a detriment to him in several fights, not just the Andy Ruiz Jr. fight. I mean, we go back to the Dillian Whyte fight, for example. Dominated the first round, hurt Dillian Whyte badly, started the second round really strong, again, busting Dillian Whyte up, and then all of a sudden, because he was so gung-ho on getting the knockout, because he was so gassed up, he walked into a counter left hook and got hurt. The Vladimir Klitschko fight, he dropped Vladimir fairly early on and, you know, got overhyped, got gassed, and then Vladimir Klitschko came back into the fight and really hurt Joshua. Even the Povetkin fight, he was exchanging with Povetkin, taking unnecessary punishment to try to get his own work off. And obviously in the Andy Ruiz Jr. fight, he drops Ruiz quite heavily, and, you know, he was fixated on getting the knockout, but he really didn't pay attention to what was coming back, and finally, it was his undoing. In this fight, I believe he needs to drop that fighter's ego. He needs to play it safe, he needs to be conservative, and if a stoppage is there, he really needs to be sure that the stoppage is there. He can't half guess it. He can't, you know, take a chance, because that is the worst thing to do against a counterpuncher with quick hands like Andy Ruiz Jr. You don't want to set your feet with Ruiz Jr. if he's still got something in the tank, because like I said, very quick hands, very accurate, and deceptively heavy-handed. So the first adjustment I would like to see from Joshua is a mental adjustment, and that is to lose that fighter's ego. You know, fight within yourself almost. Keep calm. Use your superior height and reach and play it from there. Don't take any unnecessary risks. And, you know, from a fight fan's perspective, that could mean a more boring fight. But from Joshua's perspective, I would imagine that would give him a better chance to victory. And that leads me into my second point. And that is to utilise your physical advantages. As we know, Joshua is much taller, much longer than Andy Ruiz Jr. It really doesn't make any sense to set your feet and punch with an aggressive counterpuncher like Andy Ruiz Jr. Again, that got him knocked out in the first fight. Joshua needs to be managing the range, he needs to be maintaining distance, and he needs to be keeping Andy Ruiz Jr. at the end of his punches. Make Andy Ruiz Jr. take the initiative, make him work hard, and make him chase the fight. Look at how Lennox Lewis dealt with David Tua. I know David Tua's not exactly the same as Andy Ruiz Jr., but he's a short heavyweight who has good power, and he's very dangerous if you punch with him. Lennox Lewis in that fight really did a good job of keeping the range, you know, utilising that jab, keeping Tua on the outside, and when Tua did get close, Lennox Lewis would clinch. And, Joshua needs to do something similar in this fight. Again, manage the distance, utilise the range. If Ruiz Jr. does get close, then you make the most of your superior size and tie him up. This fight for Joshua is maximising the advantages he has over Andy Ruiz Jr. because he's got the tools to beat Ruiz Jr. A consistent jab, keeping Ruiz on the outside will go a long way. Go back and watch his fight with Joseph Parker. A lot of people said that fight was a robbery. I don't see it. Joseph Parker's jab was much more effective. When it was on the outside, Ruiz was getting outboxed. Ruiz can get outboxed, and Joshua's got the physical dimensions to do so he should really try to capitalise on that. Joshua in this camp really needs to work on that jab. Like I said, he's got the height and reach, and he does have a good jab when he uses it. He just needs to be more consistent with it in this fight. And as for his right hand, Joshua does have a good right hand, but his right hand is kind of not looping, but he throws it kind of short, kind of chopping. He never really gets full extension on the right hand. So in this fight, Joshua needs to adjust the technique on his right hand. He can't fall in with it like he usually does. We don't really see Joshua throw a right hand like Vladimir Klitschko, where he gets full extension into the shot. Those are the type of right hands he needs to be throwing in this fight, because if Joshua throws the usual right hands he throws, he could fall in and then give Ruiz Jr. a chance to counterpunch and a chance to have success. So again, a technical adjustment is needed in how Anthony Joshua throws his right hand. He needs to straighten it out a lot more, and he needs to get more extension onto it. And as for his jab, he needs to use it a lot more consistently. If Joshua, performs that type of game plan, I really believe he's got a good chance to win this fight. A lot of people are saying, and I've said this as well, that if Joshua boxes and moves, eventually he'll gas out and get stopped. Well, when I think about it further, I'm not really sure that would be the case in this fight. Because yes, Joshua's got a gas tank issue, and if he tries to box and move against a guy who applies immense pressure, he would be in trouble. But Andy Ruiz Jr. doesn't really apply immense pressure. Again, go back to that Parker fight when Parker was sticking and moving. Ruiz wasn't cutting off a ring quickly. He wasn't throwing a bunch of punches. He was getting outboxed from the outside. If you keep Ruiz at range, you really do nullify him. And, boxing at your own pace is a lot easier than boxing to somebody else's pace. Ruiz isn't a good pressure fighter in a lot of ways. Yes, he's a good counterpuncher. Yes, he can counter going forwards. Yes, he's got some nice combinations. But this isn't a guy who has amazingly quick feet. This isn't a guy who throws a million punches per round. Ruiz Jr. is not that type of fighter. So if you can nullify him by, managing the distance and making the most of your height and reach, I think Andy Ruiz Jr. is a lot more ineffective. And like I said, Joshua has the tools to do so. He really does. And one more thing in this rematch for Joshua, if the event occurs where he does get hurt, then he needs to react a lot better, because a lot of times when Joshua has been hurt in the past, he doesn't really react well. And I'm not saying he, pussies out or goes into a shell. No, usually he'll try and throw with you and he'll get himself in more trouble, So in this fight, if he does get hurt, then again, he needs to clinch, he needs to hold, he needs to try and sap the energy out of Ruiz Jr. He needs to suck the momentum out of a fight if Ruiz Jr. has some good moments and lands some big punches. He shouldn't be afraid to do that, Vladimir Klitschko done it in certain fights. If it's good enough for Vladimir, then it's good enough for Anthony Joshua. So if he does get hurt, I would like to see Joshua react in a more defensive fashion, and a fashion where it gives him a better chance to survive. Again, that is more down to instinct and more of a mental thing than a technical thing, but, it needs to be drilled into Joshua in this fight camp, where if he does get hurt, don't try and throw back, don't try and set your feet, hold. Hold, 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 hold. Don't try and move backwards with your hands down, chin in the air, hold. you know. He really needs to neutralise Ruiz if he gets hurt. And ultimately for me, a lot of the adjustments Joshua needs to make in this fight are from a mental perspective. You know, they are. Obviously, technically, he can get better. He needs to improve on his jab, especially the right hand as well in this fight. Like I said, he needs to throw the right hand a lot longer, a lot straighter in this fight. And he just needs to stop falling in quite so much, because Joshua does fall in a lot with his punches. Again, we saw that with Dillian Whyte. We saw that with Alexander Povetkin, Carlos Takam, Andy Ruiz. He needs to cut that out as much as he can. And you know, by the way I've gone on so far, you would kind of say that I'm saying Joshua needs to be passive, he needs to be defensive, he needs to be negative. Yes, he does need that aspect to his game in this fight. At the same time, he does need to get Andy Ruiz Jr.'s respect. You know, he does need to land a couple of big punches, maybe buzz Ruiz a couple of times, just to get Ruiz's respect. And, you know, certain counterpunch opportunities are there. I would like to see Joshua utilise the feints a little bit more. One thing Joshua has is a lovely uppercut. If Joshua can feint, draw Andy Ruiz Jr. in, for example, take a half step back and land that uppercut when Ruiz is coming in, then I think that shot could have some good success for him. Even his shorter right hand, which I said previously, he should try to, you know, cut out as much as possible. But in that scenario, when he's feinting, taking a half step back and drawing Ruiz in, that short chopping right hand is a good counterpunch. So I'm not saying get rid of it completely, but, you know, he needs to kind of mix it up. You know, for the most part, needs to keep it at range and keep it super long. But sometimes you'll need to walk Andy Ruiz onto a couple of big shots, and that's when that short right hand can come into play. But, you know, ultimately, I believe Anthony Joshua can win this fight if he makes the right adjustments. Can he do it? You know, I'm not sure. You know, I'm just a scrub who watches boxing sitting in his living room, so what do I know? But this is just my 2 cents, you know. We will do a Andy Ruiz Jr. video as well for his keys to victory. But yeah, we started with Anthony Joshua. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Something a little bit different. I certainly enjoyed making it. It's really gone quick actually. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed it, smash the like, hit the subscribe button. It really, really, really helps me out. Peace.